are interested in one of the areas is really to focus on rising stars. And our next speaker, Nathanael, Hwang, he is an amazing rising star. He's an intern at Harvard at Kaiser Permanente, and he's going to share with you all the role that natural language processing can play in electronic health records. Nathanael, please welcome.
My name is Nathanael Hwang, and I'm excited to present my research titled Prompt NLP, Large Language Model Derived Regular Expressions for Electronic Health Record Phenotyping. No conflict of interest. So a little bit of background. So there's a lot of data that's trapped inside unstructured formats such as sleep study reports or doctor's notes. And so what we need to do is we need to use natural language processing or NLP to extract these values. However, regular expression, which is the most common form of NLP, is super labor intensive and take a really long time to code. And so I was like, can we use LLMs to help speed up this process? And so I developed this process called Prompt NLP, which is a novel, efficient approach using large language models to generate regex to extract apnea-hypopnea index and Epworth Sleepiness Score. And so we're going to be using these metrics later for a real-world case I'll explain later. So this is just a little bit of background on how regex actually works. So let's say you're trying to extract overall AHI. And so here we see that we have this phrase that says overall AHI in this sleep study report. And so the first part, which is kind of outlined in blue, basically will find overall AHI in the sleep study. Once it's found that, it will move on to that more yellow section, which basically says we're going to extract the nearest value to overall AHI. So what is Prompt NLP? So Prompt NLP is a two-step process that first identifies phrases of value. So if we go back, like it was the overall AHI, and it will compile it into an intermediate library. Once it's compiled this library, it will input the library into the LLM to create our regex code. So Prompt NLP has two different versions. The first is targeted and the next is general, and I'll go more into depth on the next slide. But really, the benefits of using Prompt NLP and why we're actually using Prompt NLP is because it is less labor intensive, it saves a lot of time, and we believe it can be scalable and generalizable to other institutions. So here's just a little bit about Prompt NLP targeted versus Prompt NLP general. So if you look at targeted, the sample report, our target phrase would be overall AHI. And so for targeted, we would just copy and paste it into the phrase library. On the other hand, general, we would just take the entire sample report, throw it into an LLM and say, here, these are the metrics I'm trying to look for, and copy it into my phrase library for me. And so after we compile this phrase library, we can go ahead and just create our NLP regex. And so here's our hypothesis. Prompt NLP will outperform manually coded regex and can be adapted across diverse clinical note types to validate generalizability. And so we split up this study into three different phases. Phase 1 is development, phase 2 is validation, and phase 3 is application. And I'll go more into depth in the next slides. So this is the first phase. It is development. And so first we compiled sleep study reports from Kaiser Permanente, Southern California, under diagnostic CPT codes. And we had a bunch of different study reports and multiple ways of reporting AHI and ESS. And so we created multiple data sets for regex development and testing, each with 300 randomly selected notes, half dedicated for AHI and the other half dedicated for ESS. And so 100 of the notes included AHI, 50 without for negative control, and the same structure was used for ESS. And we also used 3 LLMs for this analysis, each being state-of-the-art at the time: ChatGPT 03, Sonnet 4, and Gemini 2.5 Pro. So here are the development results. We primarily focused on reporting recall, which is the rate at which regex accurately extracts a value when it's present. And so none of the regexes actually extracted the value when it was not present, meaning that we had 100% precision. And so we didn't think that was a fair representation of our performance. And so we use recall for this analysis. And so here there are two main takeaways that you can take away from these charts. I'll mainly be focusing on AHI chart. But if you look, the prompt NLP regexes, which are shown in color, vastly outperform the ones in manual, with the one exception being Claude Sonnet 4 General, where the performance is only just comparable. The second takeaway is that targeted outperforms general. So if you look, targeted is around 95 to 96% recall, while general is only around 84 to 94% recall. And this is because targeted, so we found that if you want to use targeted, you should probably use it if you want completely the exact right metrics. But you want to use general when you're just trying to get values fast and efficiently. And the same can all be said about ESS. So our second phase is validation. And so we compiled notes from Beth Israel and Emory University. And these notes were a bit more difficult because they comprise of non-templated clinical narratives with a lot greater pattern variability. And so it followed the same exact data set structure as the one in phase 1. And here is our, workflow. So code 1T, which is basically the best performing code from phase 1, so that would be ChatGPT targeted, was applied on BIDMC nodes 1, and then we reviewed the performance, used prompt NLP to update the regex to create our BIDMC updated code. After that, we applied it on an unseen set of nodes, reviewed the performance, and tried testing it on Emory now. We reviewed the performance, and then once again, repeated the process. So in total, our final refined code went through 2 different updates using prompt NLP. And so here are our validation results. So you can see that the first, I'll be focusing on the AHI chart again, but the first, column is where we took the phase 1 code and we just applied it to BIDMC. And you can see the performance is quite low. And so after applying prompt NLP, updating it on the BIDMC nodes, you can see that the performance increased significantly all the way up to the upper 90s and even remained there after we applied it to an unseen set of nodes. We took this updated regex and we applied it to the Emory nodes. Performance did dip a little bit, but after applying prompt NLP one more time, the performance jumped back up and remained there. And so here's our final phase, it's the application phase. And so we actually have a planned target trial emulation with a safe trial coming up, and so we needed patients with an AHI greater of 15 and ESS less than 16. And so we applied our final refined code to 207,000 sleep study reports, 8,602 of which had corresponding structured AHI for direct comparison. And we found that of those reports, 95.5% of them we were able to extract AHI from at very, very good performance, 99.7% recall. For ESS, there was less prevalence of ESS, so that's why you see a lower extraction rate at 79.1%, but manual chart review confirmed perfect 100% recall. And so from this analysis, we were able to identify 41,359 new patients that met inclusion criteria for our safety TE. So in conclusion, prompt NLP regexes are more accurate while requiring significantly less development effort than manually coded regex. Prompt NLP can generalize to varying node formats from multiple health systems, and prompt NLP is scalable and can enable large-scale, multi-center research, including epidemiologic studies and machine learning model development. Here are my acknowledgements, and thank you.
I'm going to go off script a little because I'm going to do something. Come with me. What's an intellectual phenom, right? So he's an intern, but one of the things that I didn't want to talk about before you came up, because just in case you got nervous, that he's in high school. So this is what we call disruption is meritocracy, okay? And so I'm very proud of you. I know your dad is proud of you. Excuse me, I don't want to get choked up. But I've observed this young man for 2 years now, and every time I meet him, very impressive. Congrats, excellent. This is your